Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall. I hope that you are excited about studying the book of Genesis this summer. I know that I am. Remember, we're going to have 12 messages. We're going to look at 12 different people in Genesis. It'll get us from the beginning to the end, 6 men and 6 women. Well, we start with Adam. First, as an icebreaker, we need to take a moment and take a deep breath. We need to look around at your other group members and remember that you love each other. Remember that you're all equal in the eyes of God and that you're all equal in your salvation through Jesus Christ. We need to be reminded that even if we have differences in our beliefs, they need not to be differences that divide us, but rather differences that unite us. In fact, if we all believe the exact same thing, well, we wouldn't need unity. We would be identical. We would automatically be clones. However, we're not clones. And so a really good first step as we dig into this passage is to be reminded that as a church we strive for unity. We commit ourselves to unity. Now, second icebreaker. I want you for just a second to imagine that you are in the Garden of Eden. Now, let's not have a debate about when, or let's not have a debate about where, or let's not even have a debate about if this is real. Just imagine that you are there. What does your memory make of the garden? What are the strongest images that come to your mind when you think about the Garden of Eden? Is it the wild animals that are not being wild? Are you focused on the tree of life? Are you focused on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Are you focused on the fact that you're naked? Are you focused on the fact that you're walking with God? What is the strongest image when you think of Eden, when you imagine Eden? What's the strongest image that comes to your mind? Now, opening our Bibles, we begin with Genesis chapter 1, looking at verses 26 and 27. It says that humans are made in the image of God. I shared with you this last weekend that immediately in the Genesis narrative, we see 5 things that mean that we're made in the image of God. Number 1, we are spiritual. Adam and Eve walk with God. That's a different portrait than it is with the animals. Number 2, Adam and Eve are aware of beauty. They can appreciate beauty. They saw the beauty of the garden. Number 3, they are creative. Not only are they aware of beauty, but they can create beauty. They can create art. They can design. They can build like God did when He created. Number 4, they are emotional. It says that Adam felt alone. When each of the animals were brought to him, no suitable helper was found, no suitable mate was found. He felt alone. We experience emotional needs like God is emotional. And number 5, we are moral. We can understand right and wrong. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that was an instruction for Adam. It wasn't an instruction for any of the other animals. First, do you agree that these 5 things separate us from the animal kingdom? Or do you have questions about one of them? Share that with your group. Second, what would you add to this list? What would you add to the list of things that make us unique in the image of God, created beings, separate from the animal kingdom? Now, turn to Genesis chapter 2 and look at verse 7. It says that Adam was made from dirt. I want you to turn to Psalm 103, and I think that you would do really well to read out loud in your group verses 7 through 18, and then focus in on verse 14. Psalm 103 is a psalm of David. David says that God has pity on us because He remembers that we're just dirt. I wonder what you think about that. What do you think about the idea that we are just dirt and therefore God has pity on us? Now, turn to Genesis 3 and look at verse 6, especially the second half of the verse. Adam, having full knowledge of the commandment not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, sits right there, watches Eve take the fruit, and then he eats it. Now, group leaders, brace yourself for impact. Here's the big question. Who in your mind as a group is more responsible here for sin? Is Eve more responsible because she was deceived, she was tricked by the serpent? Or is Adam more responsible because he had full knowledge of what he was doing? I wonder what you as a group think. Or are you going to take the easy road and say that they're both 50-50. They're both 50% responsible. Finally, I think it would be very powerful for us to turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and look at verses 21 and 22. Let's have a cupful of some heavy theology for just a second. Adam and Jesus are called federal heads. That's your theological term for the day. Federal means one that represents or is over all. So our federal government represents or affects all of the other governments of our United States. All the state governments come together and form, and the federal government oversees them. Well, Adam and Jesus affect the entire human race, so they are called federal heads. How so? How does Adam affect the entire human race? And how does Jesus affect the entire human race? Well, every week I challenge you to talk about what you like in the passage, and I also challenge you to talk about what you don't like. I love the teaching that human beings are made in the image of God. We are not robots. Now, sometimes do I wish that my kids were robots? Yeah, but most of the time I don't. Most of the time I appreciate it when they care for each other. Most of the time I appreciate it when they enjoy their worlds. And I also appreciate it when they enjoy their parents. And then, what do you not like? Well, I don't like that Adam just sat and watched Eve eat from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In my mind, I think he wanted to see if she just dropped dead. And as soon as she didn't drop dead, he grabbed a hold of that fruit and devoured it. I don't like that. Every week, I also want you to be reminded of the application. And this week's application was very simple. If you have not made Jesus Lord of your life, if you have not embraced him as your federal head, then you are under the curse of Adam. But you can easily be under the blessing of Jesus, be affected forever by what he did for us on the cross. I hope that you have a wonderful group. I look forward to seeing you next weekend. God bless.